Hello everyone, so we are going to start assembling this fanny pack. This video is very long. I have a lot to say because there are a lot of steps. Anyways, here is a template that I used. I believe I found it on Pinterest. I'm going to link it down below. For my actual outside fanny pack, I chose denim, and for the lining I chose a purple cotton. So this is the front of my fanny pack. So for the front and for the back of the fanny pack, the templates are actually half of what you need. So there's a fold line. You're gonna fold your fabric and place it on the fold line and then cut the rest of the outside. For the top, you don't need to fold anything. You just cut your fabric as is. So we're gonna start out with the lining, and in my lining I have a pocket. So this pocket you can use on the inside, or you can actually put it on the outside of your fanny pack as well. You're gonna need a zipper for the pocket and a zipper for the outside of the fanny pack. So again, this tutorial is totally customizable to whatever your needs are. If you only want to do the outside of the fanny pack, that will work. If you want to add a lining, I'll show you how. If you want to add a pocket to the lining, I'll show you. If you don't want to add the pocket, you don't have to. If you want to add the pocket to the outside, you can do that as well. So there's so many things that you can do, which I love. So I'm going to start out with a pocket that is going to be on the inside of the fanny pack. So it's going to be on the lining. This is my little template. You're going to fold your fabric, place that on the fold, and then cut. So the template is 6.5 inches by 3.5. It has a 1/2 inch seam allowance all around, which means that your finished pocket is going to be 5.5 by 2.5. So we're going to start out by placing the zipper. So I'm going to take my ruler. I'm going down from the top about 1/4 inch, and I'm going to make a horizontal line. So here I'm taking my zipper. I'm just trying to see how thin or thick the teeth are. So it's 1/4 inch. So I'm going to go ahead and make a line 1/4 down from the line that I just made, and I'm going to make this rectangle. I am then going to go ahead and make 2 little triangles on both ends of the rectangle that I just made, and that should give me around where half of the rectangle is. So I made a line from the tip of one triangle to the tip of the other triangle. I'm going to take this now and I'm going to sew it onto the right side of my fabric lining. So you can see here the denim. If you were to do this on the outside of the fanny pack, you would do this right here on the good side of your fabric, okay? And it's a little bit confusing. Just wanted to also throw in a disclaimer that I am self-taught. So a lot of the words or terminology for sewing I don't know. I went to one sewing class when I was around 14 years old, but from there, everything that I know I've learned either on my own, from my mom, from friends, or from YouTube itself. I actually learned how to insert a zippered pocket from YouTube. So if you're kind of confused with what I'm doing, I'm going to leave that link to that video down below. I am here finding the center of both fabrics so that I can line them up, and I am taking my little pencil and I'm making lines on my fabric. Because I'm using a cotton solid, there kind of is no right or wrong side to my fabric, so the lines are the good side of the fabric. Say that you're using a patterned fabric, then that's what the lines represent. So I'm doing the good side of the fabric up, and I'm placing my pocket right in the middle, and I'm folding it in half just to make sure that my pocket is going to fit inside of that piece of fabric. If it's too big, you might want to place it a little bit higher or make your pocket a little bit smaller. With the dimensions that I gave you, it should fit though. So I pinned both pieces together, and I'm going to sew that rectangle that we just did. I'm using white thread so that you can see this a little bit more clear. So I'm taking my scissors, and from one tip of that triangle, I'm going to cut straight across to the other tip of the triangle. When I get to the other side, I'm going to cut both sides of the triangle without cutting through the seams of the stitching that we just did. So I'm going to do it on this triangle and also on the triangle on the other side. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and fold the top and stitch right along the top for an understitch, and then I'm going to fold the bottom up and do a stitch right there as well, just as close as you can. If you want a more clear, in-depth example of this, please go to that video that I was talking about down below. So then you want to push your fabric all the way through, and then I just ironed all of the sides in place. So here's my zipper. As you can tell, my zipper is way too long, the zipper stopper. So just with a zigzag stitch, I created my own stopper. And this is actually a zipper from something else. I don't remember what I cut this off of, but you can reuse zippers if you're throwing away a shirt or a dress that you don't like. Cut out the zipper and you could use it for other projects. So here I'm just making sure my zipper fits. I'm going to go ahead and pin my zipper in place. So I'm just going to sew very close around that rectangle. As you're sewing, feel free to move the zipper pull just to get out of the way if you're sewing the ends of the zipper. As you can see, my seams aren't very straight, but I'm getting better. So here is our zipper, just making sure that it works. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut out the excess of my zipper if it's sticking out. So then I'm just going to fold that pocket piece, and I'm going to sew all the way around the pocket layers. I'm going to sew with a zigzag stitch to keep it from fraying. So here is my pocket, super cute. You can see my seams there, and I'm just making sure that my pocket works, and it does. And there we go. So that is the back side of the lining already done. And now I'm going to work on the top side of my lining. So first, I find the center to the top of the lining and the front of the lining. And then I'm putting right sides together. I'm going to go ahead and start pinning this in place. You have to move and maneuver the front of the lining because the top of the fanny pack is curved. So we have to sew this in a curved position. So I'm just pinning this all in place, making sure that it's all centered. So I'm taking the pins off from where that little rectangle is cut. So I'm only going to sew the sides of that semicircle. So I'm going to take this piece that we just did along with the back. So you want to make sure that all of the right sides are together. All of your stitching needs to be on the outside. And you're going to pin this in place, and you're going to sew all the way around. I use a zigzag stitch just so that it doesn't keep on fraying. So now we are going to move on to the outside of the fanny pack. And if you're not doing a lining and you skipped to this place, hello. So I'm taking the front of my fanny pack and I'm just making two little snippets right in those little corners. And I'm going to fold the fabric in this little rectangle area in and then iron it down. Looking at it now, there probably was an easier way to sew the zipper on. Looking at it now a year later. But for the sake of this tutorial, this is how we're doing it. It's still very simple though. So I take my zipper, here it is, and I'm going to pin this in place as well. And then I'm going to sew it around that little half of a rectangle. So I'm sewing it down, across, and then back up. So this is what it looks like. Now I'm going to go ahead and sew the top of the fanny pack to the front of the fanny pack. And again, I'm folding both pieces in half to find the center. And we're kind of repeating the steps like we did in the lining, but I'm still including it because it doesn't hurt to repeat the steps, right? So I'm going to make sure that this is in the center. It's very important. And I'm going to start pinning this in place. Right sides together to make it a three-dimensional. We're making this a three-dimensional object. So there's a lot of curves in this, which makes it a little bit trickier, but still not that hard, I feel. Then I'm just going to go ahead and sew this in place. So I'm turning this inside out and you can see it coming to life. So the top, or on the top, I'm going to do a top stitch, and this is going to help keep the fabric in place and also out of the way of the zipper. A top stitch also makes it look more professional. So I'm taking the back of my fanny pack, and this is the belt that I'm going to use. I'm not sure what this is called, but I found it at Joann's near the ribbon section. And I'm going to sew the belt in place. I believe I bought a full yard of this, so I just sewed the belt in place. So this is the way that you're going to stack this. If you don't have lining, you are going to stack both right sides of the fanny pack together. So the bad sides of your fabric need to be facing outward. If you do have a lining, still the two good sides of the outer layer of your fanny pack are facing each other, and then you're going to take your lining and the back of your lining needs to face you. You can see that all of the raw edges are facing out, so I can see all the raw edges. So then I'm going to sew the two short sides where the belt is along with the top of the fanny pack. I'm taking the outsides of the fanny pack and I'm going to pin those in place, and I'm going to sew just the outside of the fanny pack, not including the lining. So everything is cut to precision with our pattern. So if you see that there's extra fabric, like you're pinning your pieces together and there's extra fabric here and not enough there, then something is wrong and you need to pin it again. So again, I'm leaving the lining out and I'm going to sew just that bottom. So here it is. You can use a serger or a zigzag stitch. I don't know why I didn't do a zigzag stitch. I think I should have. But here I left the zipper open and I'm going to flip everything inside out, and here is where the magic happens. Everything comes together right in this step. So you can see I'm just checking here that the lining is good, everything is great. We have some straggling thread there, but we can just cut that out. Here's my pocket. We can see that it works. Everything looks great. So now we just need to sew that zipper part of the lining to the zipper part of the outside of the fanny pack. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to use an invisible stitch. I have no idea why I did not show you guys how to do an invisible stitch. I'm sorry. But you basically want to fold the lining so that it's folded within the fanny pack. So of course you want to pin it all in place first and then do an invisible stitch all the way around. An invisible stitch is done by hand. Again, I will link to a video, maybe of somebody else explaining a little bit more in depth how to do it. And I will also link to my bow headband tutorial because I do explain how to do an invisible stitch in that tutorial. So you can see everything is nice and pinned, and you just do an invisible stitch all the way around. And when you're done with that, you are done with the body of your fanny pack. So now we're going to move on to the belt. But I got this buckle, and that's the buckle that I'm going to use. So I just picked where where the middle of that belt was, and I'm just going to go ahead and put the buckles on. So I started out with that little fork looking one, loop it through, and then I'm going to sew it in place. What I actually did was I took the raw edges of that belt and I folded it in a little bit and just sewed that together just so that it didn't fray. And then what you want to do is sew a little square and then a little X in the middle. It's just going to make sure that it doesn't come undone. So then you do the other side of the belt, again, tucking in a little bit of the cord in. And as you can see, I did a little square and then an X right in the middle, just to make sure that everything stays in place. I have a feeling that I actually put these buckles on wrong. But on the back of the buckle, it gives you instructions on how to do it. So here I have my Marie patch, and this is very easy because it's just an iron-on patch. So you just iron it on, and this is a fanny pack. It's super cute. I'm so excited and happy with how it turned out. I think if I would have done something a little bit different, it would be that I would have put the pocket on the outside back of my fanny pack instead of on the inside. But it still works out. The pocket is big enough to fit cards and money folded in half. And I wanted to add the pocket on the inside because sometimes when you're digging through your bag, you take something out and then other things come out with it. So I don't want to accidentally lose cards or money. So that's why I included a pocket. I think if you put a pocket on the back of the fanny pack, since it's going to hit your body, no one can really open it because it's so close to you. Because it's actually touching your body, so that would work as well. Something else that I would do a little bit different now would be that I would use an adjustable buckle. The reason for that is because I actually lost weight, so this fanny pack is a little bit loose, so I'm going to have to cut the belts and just sew it on a little bit tighter. What you can also do is, as I'm showing you here, if you don't like those little long edges of the fanny pack, you can actually adjust the pattern to have those cut off. But yeah, I overall just really love this tutorial, love this fanny pack just because it's so customizable. You can do so many things with it. But yeah, I hope you guys learned something from this. I hope it wasn't all over the place. Again, I just feel like I'm very bad at explaining things. But yeah, I hope you guys have an amazing and wonderful rest of the day. And I will see you guys in the next tutorial. Bye!